Okay, I think this is going to work now. Um, Took me a couple of tries this morning, but let's start with circumference of a circle. A circle has many specific parts, including the radius. So let's make sure we have our drawing. There we go. Including the radius. And that's the distance from the center circle to the outside edge. So this is the radius. Okay. Right there, let's label that. That's the radius. Be sure you're writing this down. Okay. And then the circumference, or I'm sorry, the diameter, and that goes all the way across. Let's pick a different color for the diameter. Right here. I should have a ruler. There we go. Okay. So that right there is the diameter. And then all the way around, let me see if I can just like sort of highlight it. All the way around the circle. That is called the circumference. You're not going to be able to see that. Let's put it in black. The circumference. Okay. And that's the outside amount. The circumference. Okay. Using your labeled diagram, let's see, label the parts, which we did. Using your labeled diagram, how is the diameter and radius are related? Well, the radius is 1/2 of the diameter. Or you could say, I spelled that wrong. Hold on. Let's fix that. Or you could say diameter. Or you could say the diameter is twice the radius. That's going to be important in just a minute, and you'll see why. Okay, so with that in mind, Micah and his friends are working in a tire factory. The factory manufactures several different size tires for different vehicles. Fill out the table below to show how the diameter and the circumference of the tires are related. Okay, so the diameter is right here. The circumference is right here. Okay, so the ratio setup would be the circumference. See the circumference right here, divided by the diameter, and that's going to equal the ratio. And so if we took the circumference 4396 and we divide it by 14, I'm just going to do this for you instead of showing a calculator, we'd get 3.14. Well, if we did it again, if we took 56.52 divided by 18, again, we would get 3.14. And if we did it again, 75.36 and divided by 24, we would get 3.14. And if we did, it doesn't matter what size, this ratio is the same. 113.04 divided by 36, what do you think we get? 3.14. What is the pattern that you notice regarding the circumference and the diameter of each tire? Well, it always equals 3.14. So what does that mean for us when it comes to circumference? Okay, well, what we're going to say is the circumference equals pi. Pi is 3.14. Okay, let's put that up here. Pi is about, we're going to go like that, 3.14, because that means about. It actually goes on and on and on and on and on and on forever. And we'll talk about that more later. But it's 3.14 times the diameter. 3.14 times the diameter. Okay? So another way that you could write this is the circumference equals 2 pi r. Because remember, the diameter is 2r. Remember way up here when we saw that the radius is half of the diameter, or the diameter is twice the radius. So there's two different ways that you can write it. So pi can be approximated at 3.14. So let's look at circle number 1. The formula, if we remember this formula, is C equals circumference equals, well, you could use 2 pi r, or you could use pi diameter. Okay, you can choose which one you want to use. C equals 2 pi r or pi diameter. Now, in this case, you might want to use the C equals 2 pi r because you know the radius. You don't know the diameter. Okay, so let's just plug in the values. So C equals 2 times 3.14 times, we know the radius is 6. So we can plug that in. In terms of pi, we're going to just leave it as C equals 12 pi. But sometimes they'll tell you to use 3.14 for pi, or sometimes you can just round it to 3 for pi, depending on what you're working on. And so that would make the circumference equals 37.68. So let's do it again. We have the diameter here. So this time we're going to use C pi diameter because we already know the diameter. So we'll just fill that in. C equals 3.14 times 14. See how my diameter is 14? We're just plugging it in. See, the diameter, it's 14. So in terms of pi, we would just say C equals 14 pi. But if you're going to plug in 3.14 for pi, if it tells you to do that, then it would be C equals 43.96. Okay? Again, when we're on this one, we could probably use this formula because we don't have the diameter. We have the radius. This is the radius. So we can use the radius formula. And that's just C2 pi r. And let's plug in our values. C equals 2 times 3.14 times the radius is 3.5. Okay. In terms of pi, we could say C equals, so we'll do 2 times this, 7 pi. Or we can go ahead and multiply it out using 3.14 for pi, and that would be C equals 21.98. Okay? So let's look at this last problem here. A Ferris wheel travels in a circular motion and measures 40 meters from the top. So I like to draw these things out. Here's our Ferris wheel. From the top of the car to the bottom, top to the bottom, that is 40 meters. Okay? So what's the length of the radius? Well, radius is half that. So that would be 20, right? And we can say 20 meters. What's the length of diameter? Well, we know that. That's 40 meters. A car travels one time around. How many meters did the car travel? Well, that would be the circumference, okay? So circumference equals pi times 20, or pi times 40. Oops. Pi times 40, okay? If we go ahead and calculate that out, we would get C equals 125.6 because we just take 3.14 times 40. You can drop the 0 for right now. Just remember the zeros over here. And then you can calculate that out. 16, 4, 5, 12. And then put your 0 back in. And how many decimals? 1, 2. 1, 2. There it is. Okay. On another Ferris wheel, a car will travel this many meters to go around once. What is the height from top to bottom? Okay. So how are we going to figure that out? What would be the height from top to bottom? Another Ferris. So we don't know this right here. So we can take, let me show you that in this. The circumference equals the diameter times pi, right? We know the circumference. The circumference is 100.48. We don't know the diameter, but we know pi is approximately 3.14. So now we're just doing 6th grade math. Divide by 3.14, divide by 3.14, and now we know the diameter equals about 32 meters. Okay? Okay, you have some choices on what you can do next in dealing with circumference of a circle.